you can count on us. This is 7 News Good Morning Fort Sill.
Well, good morning, Fort Sill, and thanks for tuning in for another round of military news.
Well, we got a great show today, I think, but first, before we dive in, let's go ahead and check out what the weather's looking like with Michael Amakwa, our meteorologist. Michael, how's it looking today? Looks like there's a little bit of rain to our north on the radar there.
Yes, there is, and that activity will be making its way here later on today. But first, right now, we're seeing muggy conditions with a few clouds in the area, looking at satellite and radar, but nothing, no precipitation just yet. Maybe a few showers are possible in our far western counties. But looking to the north, we do have this complex of showers and thunderstorms. That activity will be making its way towards our area, but not necessarily towards central Texoma. The eastern half of the area will have the best chance of rain. So about a 30 to 40% chance of widely scattered showers and storms, and that along will come with a cold front that will come through, especially this evening into tomorrow, and that will give us much cooler weather for tomorrow. And looking at the Comanche Entertainment Tower Cam, pretty much quiet out there right now. And yesterday we had a high of 88 degrees, so a little bit cooler, well below average for this time of year. Remember, we've been having cooler below average weather for the past couple of days, but as we look elsewhere, we had a high so far in the 70s. I will bring up the graphic that will show our actual highs elsewhere later on, but we will continue to track chances of rain today and maybe a little bit this weekend before we warm up a little bit going into next week, but I'll have your forecast coming up.
Well, starting as always with our top military headlines, the Trump administration wants to use a Navy base north of Chicago as a launch pad for their federal crackdown on crime and immigration.
That's right. Officials with Naval Station Great Lakes say that they received a request from the Department of Homeland Security seeking limited support for immigrations and customs enforcement.
The base would provide facilities, infrastructure, and other logistical needs. The final call to authorize the request will come from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Well, legal proceedings have begun for 4 Army soldiers accused of sexually assaulting a college student in a barracks room at Joint Base Lewis McChord last year.
Corporal Pedro Angel Ruiz, PV2 Darren Gordon, Specialist Jaden Bosarge, and PFC Callan Curiel have been charged with sexual assault and conspiracy, as well as other charges for recording the incident and obstruction of justice. Gordon has pleaded guilty to the charges and awaits sentencing. Curiel also faces unrelated sexual assault charges in Arizona.
Each defendant faces decades worth of prison time if they are convicted. The cases, including trials for each soldier, are scheduled to continue moving forward next month and run through at least November in a courtroom at Joint Base Lewis McChord. Well, Fort Hood leaders are coming under fire for failing to warn the public after several incidents of sexual assault in the barracks were reported there.
The issue eventually came to light after one woman was able to escape her attacker. Investigators eventually learned that Sergeant Greville Clark spent 18 months preying on women living and working with him.
So the attacks came during a massive transitional period for Fort Hood after the death of Sergeant Vanessa Guillen in 2020. Clark was sentenced to life in prison earlier this year for her murder. Well,
an Army installation in Virginia is the latest post to revert back to its original name.
So Fort Walker will now be known once again as Fort A.P. Hill. As Maggie Glass reports, it honors Union soldiers who were awarded the Medal of Honor during the Civil War.
Now Fort A.P. Hill will hold the names of 3 Union soldiers praised for their heroic actions during the Civil War. It's an honor their living descendants say they never could have imagined. The redesignation becoming official Wednesday morning with many family members of the 3 men present. Fort Anderson Penn Hill containing the last names of the 3 Medal of Honor recipients. They are Private Bruce Anderson,
was among a small force of volunteers that ran to the front of the unit armed with only an axe.
First Sergeant Alexander Penn.
Penn led his troops in battle after all of the officers in the units were killed or wounded.
And Lieutenant Colonel Edward Hill.
Hill led the brigade a skirmish line in a desperate charge on the enemy's mass batteries.
If the name A.P. Hill sounds familiar, that's because it went by such for more than 80 years, but after Confederate General Ambrose Powell Hill. That was scrubbed in 2023 following a years-long effort during the Biden administration to get rid of military names linked to the Confederacy. An initiative, when all was said and done, costed around $60 million. This why Fort AP Hill was renamed Fort Walker after Dr. Mary Walker, a Civil War surgeon. Only a few months ago, President Trump deciding to redesignate this base as AP Hill, but this time honoring different people.
I was surprised and kind of in awe.
The common reaction descendants of the three men tell me they had when getting the call their family name would be honored in this way.
Wow. It's one of those who knew moments.
Now serving as a way to keep their family legacy alive.
This is a story that we've told in our family for several generations, and now for it to come full circle with me being in the Army and other family members, it's just a tradition, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
All branches of the U.S. military currently come to Fort AP Hill for training.
Hey, so before we started this one, so I did want to make so I misspoke on a previous story about the Vanessa Guillen story in Fort Hood. So the Sergeant Clark was actually a different soldier convicted for sexual assault, not unrelated to the Vanessa Guillen incident there. But moving on to Fort Sill. So Fort Sill Army Community Service is hosting a Spouses Resiliency event today where you get to paint your own mug.
Sounds like a good time. The event runs from 12 until 3 this afternoon at A Pigment of Your Imagination in Lawton. It is free, but registration is required. You can contact ACS at the phone number or email on your screen to get registered.
And Fort Sill Housing Company Corvius is inviting you and your furry friends to come out to the Southern Plains Pool for the Pet Plunge next week. The fun begins next Tuesday from 2 until 5 in the afternoon. There will be treats, plenty of freebies for your pets, and photo ops. And of note, this event is not to be confused with Fort Sill MWR's Dog Days of Summer event, which is scheduled at Quinette Pool later in September. And we'll be sure to provide all the information on that event coming up soon.
Well, dozens of airmen at Altus Air Force Base hit the track, the slot car track that is, to nab the checkered flag at the inaugural Wingman Cup.
So the racers competed in slot car build-off and raced for time on a 1 in 64 scale track. Some of the coolest cars included Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Sorry. From Monsters Incorporated and Bucky's Mobile and Hot Pink Funny Car.
Now, Team Youth Nourishment was able to nab the cup this year, narrowly edging out Team Shake and Bake, gotta love that, and became the first ever winners of the Wingman.
Oh man, I'm off my game today. Well, heads up if you're looking to work up a sweat on Labor Day weekend, the fitness center in Altus Air Force Base will not be open from Friday until Tuesday due to the training holiday and the federal holiday on Monday. Fitness center officials say that make sure that you stop by the front desk before then to activate your card if it doesn't have 24/7 gym access.
Well, Missile Gate on Shepherd Air Force Base will also be closing down due to the Labor Day holiday. The gate, as well as the Visitors Control Center, will be closed beginning tomorrow and again on Labor Day. The main gate will still be open for business as usual, though.
And newly proposed additions to Congress's defense spending bill could mean airmen with the Air National Guard will be taken over by the Space Force. We'll have the latest announcements from across the armed forces coming up next.
This just in, the town of Velma is being evacuated.
Stay connected to the team you trust your way. Get breaking news and investigations here on the 7 News app.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Instant forecast with real-time alerts here on the First Alert 7 weather app. And stream live on your TV here or watch anytime on your schedule. Download all 3 for free. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are.
Every first matters. The first alarm at first cup of coffee and the first look at what the day could bring.
And 7 News is right here with you with your first alert.
Every first, every morning, we're here. 7 News, Good Morning Texoma. Every first, every morning, we're here. This 7 News broadcast is sponsored by Southwest Buick GMC. Here's your first alert forecast with meteorologist Michael Amankwa.
So yesterday we did have high, as I mentioned earlier, in Lawton of 88 degrees, and you can kind of see where that gradient was as temperatures slowly started warming up throughout the day yesterday. Lower to mid 80s to the north, and then lower to mid 90s to the south. 92 was the high yesterday in Wichita Falls, 92 in Frederick, 94 in Vernon, but 83 in Elk City, and just 90 degrees in Altus. Current temperatures right now, we're sitting in the lower to mid 70s across the air, upper 70s closer to 80 degrees south of the Red River. And as you look at our dew points, well, no surprise, they are quite high across the area, upper 60s and lower 70s across the air. Winds are light right now, but they will be mainly out of the east. They'll be coming more out of the south later on today, and that will be before that cold front comes in later on this evening and going into tomorrow. Looking at the upper levels right now, you got that subtropical jet stream just to our north. You got the polar jet stream coming in with that big trough over towards the Midwest. A high pressure heat dome, well, it's way down in Mexico, so that's why we're going to continue to have this active storm track. It's kind of like a conveyor belt, if you think about it that way, in the upper levels. And one check of the tropics right now, we do have now a weakening tropical storm. It's just weakened into a depression now, and we continue to fizzle out in the Atlantic. And we can see that warm front currently situated in our area. It will continue to move north today, but it will come back as a cold front and come back south tomorrow, cooling us off into the upper 70s and lower 80s. Marginal risk of severe weather today, mainly along into the east of the I-44 corridor, up to golf ball size hail, and 70-mile-per-hour winds are possible. Looking at your PT forecast, we're currently 72 degrees at Fort Sill, and over the next few hours, we will be sitting in the lower 70s before getting into the mid to upper 70s, close to 80 degrees.
Well, the DoD's PCS Joint Task Force has been busy over the past several weeks with various meetings and town halls.
They recently held a collaboration session with industry leaders to discuss the entire move process, including customer service and the use of technology to streamline operations. Yesterday, the task force commander, Army Major General Lance Curtis, hosted a military spouse town hall with three main topics that included how the DoD can better prepare service members and families for PCS season, concerns about quality of service from movers, and challenges with the household goods claims process. Also, just a reminder that the DoD has set up a 24/7 PCS call center to help with that entire move process. The center's phone number and email listed on your screen now. The DoD's Military One Source website also has information dedicated to the PCS move process. All right, Dan, sounds like they are making some progress on that military move process.
So they are. I think they're doing the right things right now. We've been monitoring this closely. Obviously, we've had a couple stories on this already. It'll be interesting to see. So they're doing the right things. It'll be interesting to see, if they apply all the stuff that they're learning moving forward and truly make some permanent changes to the process.
Well, the Army has released new all-Army activity messages over the last week or so.
So ALARAC messages cover a wide range of topics and are used to announce various upcoming activities, awards, or other information that's applicable to the entire Army. ALARAC 8083-2025 states that the Army is now accepting nominations for the Lieutenant General Arthur J. Gregg Leadership Award. Commands across all components may nominate soldiers, civilians, or a retired civilian or veteran who made significant contributions to Army sustainment. Packets are due no later than October 31st, and winners will be announced in March of next year. This annual award highlights the very best in Army logistics leadership.
The Army has revoked the COVID-19 vaccine requirement for child and youth services programs effective immediately. Neither staff, volunteers, nor children need the COVID-19 vaccine or a waiver to participate. However, all other age-appropriate immunizations are still required. In line with Army and DoD policy, additional guidance will be issued in a forthcoming Army directive.
And the Army has reaffirmed its policy for command climate assessments. All commanders are required to conduct annual assessments, including the Defense Organizational Climate Survey between August and November. These surveys provide critical insight into unit culture, readiness, and leadership effectiveness. Leaders are encouraged to achieve at least a 50% participation rate to ensure accurate results. The goal is clear, at least from the Army. They want to build positive professional environments that strengthen readiness in the Army team. And new additions to Congress's defense spending bill would allow the Space Force to take over certain Air National Guard units, despite existing legislation to create a Space National Guard.
And the amendments would allow the planned transfer of Air National Guardsmen with space missions to the active duty Space Force as soon as October. The Biden administration era move has drawn protests from state leaders across the country. President Trump pledged his support for a Space National Guard while he was hitting the campaign trail.
The amendments would still have to be added to the annual National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, and would have to be passed by Congress and signed by the president to become law.
Still ahead, the third iteration of the USS Wisconsin is under construction. Coming up, we'll have more on its keel laying ceremony and what it means to the Wisconsin residents.
This just in, the town of Velma is being evacuated.
Stay connected to the team you trust your way. Get breaking news and investigations here on the 7 News app.
Mark, what are you seeing?
Right now I'm here at 2nd and F.
Instant forecast with real-time alerts here on the First Alert 7 weather app. And stream live on your TV here or watch anytime on your schedule. Download all 3 for free. Stay connected to 7 News wherever you are.
Every first matters. The first alarm at first cup of coffee and the first look at what the day could bring.
And 7 News is right here with you with your first alert.
Every first, every morning, we're here. 7 News, Good Morning Texoma. Every first, every morning, we're here.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is set to cut 30,000 jobs by the end of the year.
That's right. So 17,000 have already been eliminated, with 12,000 more expected by the end of October. It's part of the Trump administration's plan to reduce the size of the federal government. VA Secretary Doug Collins claims that the department has multiple safeguards in place to ensure that staff reductions do not impact veteran care or benefits.
But it remains a concern for many. In Iowa, a group of veterans and healthcare workers staged a protest this week. They're worried that the staff reductions at the VA will affect the quality of care that they'll receive in the future.
Expect the care that was promised in my contract. You know, we will take care of you if we break you. They broke me, and now I'm worried that they're not going to take care of me.
People are doing multiple jobs, or they're being detailed to jobs that are vacant because they aren't being recruited to backfill.
According to VA Secretary Collins, despite less staffing, wait times for VA benefits are down 37% since President Donald Trump took office. The administration is also reporting that the most claims ever processed in a single year.
Collins says the administration is prioritizing hiring more doctors and nurses, but remains committed to the Trump administration's goals of cutting government spending.
I think we're going to take doctors, maybe, and nurses who are in administrative roles and putting them back in our clinics and in our hospitals. Instead of wasting their, quote, medical talents in paperwork, we're going to let them go back to taking care of patients and veterans. So I think there's a lot of ways to do this.
So, Colin, remember a couple months ago, I actually did a virtual interview with VA Secretary Doug Collins, and some of those personnel cuts were brought up in that interview. So it is interesting to see this kind of come to fruition. I mean, a veteran myself, like obviously I get services from the VA. So if you want to see that full interview that we did a few months ago, you can actually go to our website at kswo.com, click on the military tab, scroll down, and the full interview is posted there.
Meanwhile, the Wisconsin Veterans Museum in Madison held a ceremony to honor the construction of the USS Wisconsin. The Navy's latest ballistic missile submarine is the third USS Wisconsin to serve in the fleet.
Supporters of the vessel say it's a big deal for the history of the Badger State.
What does it mean for Wisconsin? It's a huge deal. Not every state has a vessel of this type named for it. Not every state gets a vessel named all that often. So for Wisconsin to have that honor, not just once, but now the third time, it says a great deal about what this state means to the country and to our Navy.
The ship will be ready to join its fleet by 2032. Fire crews are continuing to battle a fire at the Schofield Barracks Range complex in Hawaii.
That fire, which is currently about 30% contained, has burned about 250 acres so far. The military says that the fire started while soldiers were training with full-range practice rounds, and the heat likely ignited grass in the impact area.
U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii Wildland firefighters, along with soldiers from the 25th Combat Aviation Brigade, responded to that fire.
Paratroopers with the 173rd Airborne Brigade made history this month by destroying an aircraft in flight using a first-person view drone carrying explosives.
The strike took place earlier this month during the Army's Unmanned Aerial Systems and Launched Effects Summit at Fort Rucker, Alabama. The live fire event was led by the brigade's Bayonet Innovation Team in partnership with the Pennsylvania Army National Guard and engineers from Army Combat Capabilities Development Command. Well, a woman in Washington State says she was shocked to find a cannonball in her backyard while she was doing some yard work.
So police and military EOD squads were called out to make sure that the live round wouldn't go off or didn't go off. Military historians say that they may have been from the Civil War era. This is kind of crazy, actually, when you see this stuff. And is likely the same shape and size as those used in a cannon at a nearby barracks. They say the round may have still had gunpowder in it and had deadly consequences.
Probably was just gunpowder in there, but if it's sealed, it might have still been highly explosive. And if it had gone off, then the cannonball would have exploded and all the shot and everything inside of it would have also gone out. And people would have been just as dead now as they would have been in the Civil War.
It was like maybe 6 or 7 seconds of not processing what I was holding. You know, like, this can't really be a cannonball.
Forecast with meteorologist Michael Amanqua.
Well, looking at your future track as we go throughout most of your Thursday, we have mostly clear skies. Clouds will increase as we go throughout the day, and some scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible. Isolated severe weather cannot be ruled out. But as we go throughout the overnight hours, that cold front will be making its way through, especially going into tomorrow morning before pretty much clearing through most of Texoma. We will be in the 80s tomorrow, upper 70s, lower 80s behind the cold front. And then as we go into your Friday, we may have another round of scattered showers and storms going into your Saturday. As we look to your Saturday, scattered showers and storms are possible. A little bit of activity possible on your Sunday and your Monday. We clear out a little bit on your Tuesday, but then we may get a little bit more activity going into next week. 95 for a high with scattered showers and storms, especially in the afternoon and evening hours. Severe isolated to marginal severe weather cannot be ruled out. As we go into tonight, temperatures will be falling into the 60s with cooler, with some showers still possible. Northeast winds at 0 to 10 miles an hour. And as we go into tomorrow, high of 81 degrees. And an isolated shower storm cannot be ruled out, but it will be mostly cloudy. And winds will be out of the east and northeast at around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Looking at your 7-day forecast, Thursday a high 95. You get that front coming in by your Friday. And then as you go into much of your Saturday, we will be hanging out in the lower 80s as you go into next week. Your Saturday, Sunday, and your Monday before warming up into the upper 80s, close to 90.
Looks like we're set to get a decent amount of rain over the next few days.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thanks for watching. Good morning, Fort Sill.